This is a story about some sheep, some shepherds, some dogs, and some irate neighbors. But most of all, it's a story about cultural differences. I'm Cecile. This is my channel from Canada to Adana. So about 3 weeks ago, I noticed that a shepherd, or perhaps two shepherds and their flocks, were camping out in an empty lot very, very close to here. And it wasn't just one night, it was the second night, it was the third night. And over the course of about a week, the two shepherds turned into four, the two flocks turned into four. They had originally appeared with just a backpack each. Suddenly there was a trailer, a camper. A week later, there was a water tank. Slowly but surely, over the course of 2 or 3 weeks, these shepherds had literally set up camp, and they were now living on this undeveloped piece of land very, very close to our house. This is a piece of land that is fenced in and has a lock on the gate. This is also a story, as I said, about cultural differences. So I'm going to tell you how Cecile the Canadian might have handled this, and I'm going to show you how my Turkish husband handled it. Let me backtrack a bit. When I was new in Turkey back in 2006, one of the things I noticed very quickly was that everywhere I went, I had to drink tea before anything could happen. So I wanted to buy a pair of shoes. First, we drank tea. I wanted to apply for a job. First, we drank tea. I wanted to, buy a carpet, a Turkish rug at a carpet shop. First, we drank tea. Ultimately, it was about sharing something, conversation, talking. Now, I saw all this through my North American, Northeastern Canadian Toronto lens. I saw this as an extremely inefficient use of time, dare I say a waste of time. I wondered why it always took everyone so long to get everything done, and I just kind of saw it as pointless. I figured, okay, it's like the Mediterranean way, no one's in a hurry. And I thought it was sort of a quirky cultural difference, and I poked fun at it with my foreign friends. I'll interrupt myself here to say that whatever I refer to going forward as Turkish or Canadian, I realize that what I'm describing is not unique to Turkey, and what I'm describing as Canadian behavior or mindset is not unique to Canada. I think that what I'm calling Canadian is probably true of most North Americans, maybe Northern Europeans as well. And what I'm calling Turkish is possible, or I'm guessing probably also very common in the Middle East, maybe in other Mediterranean countries, maybe in South American countries from what I've heard, maybe even some Asian countries, some African countries. So again, I'm talking about my experience in Turkey as a Canadian, but I think that these patterns of behavior are probably common elsewhere as well. As I said, when I was new in Turkey, I looked at this required tea drinking as sort of a quirky thing, but I also saw it as a time suck, really inefficient. Now, let's go back to the sheep. The Canadian Cecile would have gone over there, guns blasting, maybe called up the local municipality and complained and insisted that these shepherds pick up all the garbage, because within a few days a lot of garbage, plastic, paper had accumulated where they were camping. I would have insisted they tie up their dog. I would have made all kinds of requests, really insisting on my being right and them being wrong. I probably would have not have been very successful, and I would have gotten really riled up in the process. Now, I am still Canadian, and there are certain parts of my personality and habits of mind that haven't left me. But with time, I have also come to see that, let's say, there are other ways of doing it. So this morning, my husband finally agreed, after weeks of having me pester him, to call our local muhtar. I don't know what this means in English. I'll have to look it up. I was sitting very close by, totally wanting to listen to every word, ready to chime in if my husband left out any detail. But no, I had to listen to my husband ask this man on the other end of the phone how his crops this summer went and whether they had all been harvested and whether or not he'd been happy. So I listened to my husband talk with this man about his cotton crop this year, his sunflower crop, his crop of wheat. And they talked about how now, as we get ready for winter, this man, the muhtar, was going to relax. Then they started talking about the muhtar's need for a well in the village. My husband is in the water business, and they started talking about whether or not he had gotten a well drilled, and, they went on and on about that. I think it probably took them 20 minutes before my husband brought up the topic of the shepherds, the real reason for his call. Now, let's talk a little bit about cultural differences. I have been visited many times by neighbors, family friends, and we drink tea, we drink coffee, we eat a little bit of cake, we talk about family members and work or whatever. And just as I've stopped wondering what the purpose of the visit is, and I decide maybe they did just come for a friendly visit and to say hi, they will broach the subject that they really came to see me about. They want private lessons in English for their child or their niece, or they want me to proofread a document, or they want to borrow a cup of sugar. Whatever it is, big or small, there is always a preamble. Now, as a Canadian, my approach is very different. If I want to borrow something from my neighbor, if I want to phone up someone and ask them a favor, I come right to it. I'll say, hi, how are you? And then I get right to it. And, as a Torontonian maybe, I value directness. I value clear communication. I value people's time. And so for many years living here in Turkey, I saw this custom, let's say, this very roundabout way of getting to the point and asking for something. I saw it as slightly deceptive. I saw it as dare I say, sneaky. I started to think everybody had an ulterior motive. I started to see people as really insincere. Meanwhile, the opposite was also true. People thought I was way too direct and outspoken and just, forward, completely antisocial, not caring about people, just caring about what needed to be done. Now with time, I can see the benefits of both methods. So I see this as indicative of the way Turkish people really value relationships. They value connection. They value human contact. Whereas as a North American, as a Canadian, I think we value getting the job done. We think that time is money. We value efficiency. We value productivity. And we definitely don't want to waste other people's time. We are mindful of other people's time. I think, though, that after you've sat with someone and drank tea with them and talked with them, you do build up a connection, and it becomes more difficult to say no when they ask something of you, and it also makes you want to make them happy. I think this is what Dale Carnegie meant when he wrote in How to Win Friends and Influence People, that the more you make the person across from you feel good and feel happy, the more likely they become to want to make you happy. I also think about Stephen Covey and the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, particularly the one that talks about win-win situations. So let's go back to those sheep. Let me just pause to ask you, if you are enjoying this video or finding it useful, please do give it the thumbs up. It really helps this video get seen by more people. And if you haven't yet subscribed, do so that you won't miss a single video. I publish new videos once a week. So let's get back to those sheep. After a really long conversation with our muhtar, My husband hung up the phone, unfortunately, kind of at a dead end. It turns out that these shepherds had already been fined by the municipality, but because the fine of, I guess, squatting illegally on someone's land was so insignificant, they just ignored it. Our only recourse was to contact the owner of the land and convince that person to file a police complaint, a police report. So stay tuned for what happens with the sheep. This is very much a drama in progress, but today's phone call with the muhtar about these shepherds was definitely a really good reminder of the cultural differences between getting to the point, time is money, being direct, as the Canadian way is, and the Turkish way, which is, a really long preamble and focusing on connection before you ask for what it is that you want. And I'm happy to say that I really see the beauty in both ways. I don't think one is better than the other. I think there is a time and place for both. I definitely use both methods. It depends on the situation. It depends who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to someone who I know is really busy, possibly a fellow Canadian, I'll just get right to the point. And if I'm talking to a neighbor or a Turkish colleague, I will definitely sit and have a cup of Turkish coffee or tea and chat about kids, in-laws, cousins, nieces and nephews, grandparents, before asking them what I came for. So that's all for this week. See you next week. Bye for now.